Hello and welcome to the Road to the Garden podcast. It is a not as cold as you would think, late Wednesday night here in December. And it was the first night of Big East play, technically our first Big East versus Big East game. But the leading headline tonight, it's going to be about the Huskies, and it might be about the Huskies for a while. Got George Hathaway joining me here, our UConn writer, to talk about UConn and their win over Florida in dominant fashion. How you doing, George?
I'm doing great, Matt. Pleasure to be here, and I'm even more excited that UConn are now 10-0 for the first time since 2011. And UConn fans know what happened that year. They won the national championship, and hopefully history repeats itself. UConn also the first team to go 10-0 to start off the season since Syracuse did it in 2009-2010 season. So a lot of firsts for this UConn team, but honestly, my first initial reactions just from watching this game is just this team is complete and they're amazing. And you and I talked about a little bit, in the preview of the season for UConn is if they can get past the first round, that's a great season for them. Now looking at it, it's like this team can make a deep run in March, early April. And just watching this team they're deep. You have everybody who can do everything. And it doesn't matter if it's the 1 through the 5, if it's the guys coming off the bench, everybody's doing their part. And Danny Hurley, I think, could be either Big East Coach of the Year. I mean, we can even say that he's National Coach of the Year as well.
Yeah, he has to be in that conversation. You look at some of these stats here, you get 5 points from Tristan Newton tonight, nothing from Naheem Aline, nothing from Hassan Diarra on the road against a Florida team that's supposed to be pretty good this year. It has given other Big East teams a hard time, and it wasn't close. And it never even didn't feel like UConn was trying to beat Florida. It just
I
kind of
know.
happened.
It really did. And this was an atmosphere where UConn was playing where the crowd was very lively. I mean, they had the Phil Knight Invitational that was very big against some good teams, but that was in a neutral site. Here they are on the road against a good Florida team, like you mentioned. But to me, this was all about the UConn big men dominating this game from start to finish. You had Sanogo with 17 points, 7 rebounds, and you have Donovan Clingan with 16 points, 8 rebounds. So this team, I mean, it doesn't matter who's out there playing the 5. They're going to dominate on the glass. And then, of course, post scoring as well. And the Connecticut native, I think everybody's one of the favorite players on this UConn team, repping Connecticut here. And he's 7'2", and he's absolutely dominant throughout. And that's what I really like about him is he can do a little bit of everything. His defense is spectacular. He had a few blocks tonight as well. So he can just really do it all.
Yeah. How many Big East teams would Donovan Clingan start for?
I think
More than half.
All of them. Yeah, more than half.
And that's not a diss to anybody either. The Big East is arguably the best centers in the country as a conference as a whole. And we can talk about, how is Adama Sanogo going to look versus Ryan Kalkbrenner? Or how is Adama Sanogo going to look against Joel Soriano with how Soriano has played this year?
Right.
And it's like, all right, well, Clingan might end up being even better. Like it's ridiculous.
It's like old school basketball again.
Yeah.
It's like Hakeem going up against Shaq or something like that. It's what like the matchups we're going to see is just dominant basketball from the big men down low.
Yeah. Clingan and Sanogo combined for 33 points tonight. They made 16 shots on 22 attempts, if I'm doing that math correctly there. Sanogo did miss his one 3-point attempt. So yes, we'll have to dock some points for his performance there.
But I like him stepping out of his comfort zone. He's able to shoot the ball from deep. I mean, we've seen him do it a few times this season already. And I mentioned in the previews that I would like to see him explore shooting from outside because that'll just make him more of a threat. Sometimes you would let those big men kind of have those threes, but if you have somebody who can shoot them, now you got to play defense on them at the top of the key. But then Sanogo would just take you one dribble and drive to the lane. So that's what's so scary about him is that you don't know what kind of night he's going to have. If it's going to be a good 3-point shooting night, where by that I mean like maybe he makes a few, and that's not like he's going to go crazy from beyond the arc. But I think if you have somebody like that can be a dual threat on the offensive side, you just defensively, you just don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's a kind of a cheat code there.
It
Then
is.
you add the perimeter shooting has been good this year, and I think that
Mhm.
was kind of something that previous UConn teams struggled with, having
Yes.
depth there. UConn right now has 4 three-point shooters who have at least 30 attempts this season who are shooting better than 37.5%. So it's Caravan is the worst of the bunch at 37.5%. Jordan Hawkins, 39%. Tristan Newton, 39.4%. Joey Calcaterra is at 58.1%,
Oof.
which he's a guy too. Like, I think he got glossed over as much as anybody in the transfer process. He was
Yes.
brought in as a role player, a guy who's going to be able to come off the bench or start, who's experienced, who can shoot the three ball. That's all you're asking of him. And he was good at it. He's a veteran. Like, you know what you're getting out of him. And he fit the rest of what they were doing. And he flew under the radar. And I don't understand why.
I think that was Danny Hurley's big kind of idea this off season was to get some good transfers that are able to shoot the ball. UConn last year struggled shooting from three. So how can they improve and do better? We'll get some guys from the transfer portal that can shoot the ball really well. And it's been working out for them. They've learned from last year's mistakes how they can kind of work on some things. And now here they are undefeated 10-0 and winning all 10 of their games by double digits.
Yeah. And I don't expect that to change on Saturday. They get LIU at home. Ken
Yes.
Palm currently gives them a 99.96% chance of victory. Their projected final score is 89-52.
I think that's fair because defensively, you look at UConn, they're active with their hands.
Mhm.
Everybody's moving their feet, moving side to side, and they're doing a great job defensively. Transition defense, I've tweeted about this before, it is
Mhm.
spectacular. You don't have anybody kind of slacking on defense, no free baskets off of turnovers. And they had 9 steals tonight and 7 blocks as well. So this team is able to play great defense. And I think that's one of their strengths is how well they play defensively against these non-conference teams.
Yeah.
And it's been helping them out.
Yeah, and that's the offense is what's going to draw the attention. And you look at
Right.
the raw total; they haven't scored less than 71 points in the game this year, and most of these games are above 80 points, or at least at 75 points, like they got tonight against Florida.
Hmm.
The defense is ranked even higher in efficiency. Right now, it's fourth on Ken Palm. I think what stands out with that too, it's ninth in effective field goal percentage allowed, fifth in 3-point field goal percentage allowed, not in 3-point shooting, but the ratio of 3-point shots. Teams do not shoot the three against UConn. They're running them off the 3-point line, and
Hmm.
they're eighth in assists for field goals made on defense. So they're you can't like it's they're not letting people pass into shots. They're running teams off the 3-point line. And it's like, okay, well, the only thing you have left after that is one-on-ones in the post with Sonogo or Klingons. Have fun.
So yeah, good luck. Best of luck for you. But I think it's just like the saying goes is defense wins championships. And if this team can only continue what they've been doing defensively, the Huskies have a real shot at the national championship this season, along with how well they've been shooting the ball. I think it's just a complete team. You look at everything. It's like you can't ask for a more perfect basketball team if you're a coach and Danny Hurley. I mean, of course, he knows more than I do about basketball and coaching, but just looking at it is I know he's definitely happy about a lot of what this Huskies team's doing.
Yeah, and it's they really haven't done much of anything wrong so far this
They haven't.
season. Yeah, not only are they winning, they're winning comfortably and to the point where you're not worried. Like
Right.
it never feels close when they play. It was kind of close for stretches against Oklahoma State. I think it got a
Mhm.
little bit closer at the end than people thought. I know the line on that one that I got was I think 9.5, and they ended up winning by 10 at the
Yes.
end. So
That
that
was the
got
closest game this season was 10.
yeah, that's remarkable when
It
you've
is.
played the quality of opponents that UConn has. That's also why they're up to number 2 right now on Ken Palm. And I mean, they're going to stay that way for a while. It's them right behind Houston, and I'm not going to be shocked if they jump Houston at some point if they keep playing like this.
Yeah, and what I really like about UConn right now is you look at their free throws. Tonight against Florida, they only shot 9 free throws. And that just goes to show that like this team can do it all. But and they went 8 for 9 from the charity stripe as well. So they're efficient for their free throws. And you have to always wonder, play devil's advocate here, is wonder if what happens when UConn is in a close game now.
Mhm.
How are they going to close it down the stretch? And it's going to come down to free throws, especially when it comes to conference play, which only is happening in a few days next week. So, I mean, if they can shoot from the free throw line very well, I think that they should have no problem winning close games, but they haven't experienced that yet.
Nope.
So
Playing
we
well.
don't know. It's all that uncertainty.
Yeah. And I mean, if that's the only criticism you have is that the team's played so well that you don't know how they're going to react when things get like that. We're really picking at stuff at that point.
Yes.
Do you think it's interesting that a team that has big men that play as well as UConn does not get to the line that much? But
It's weird.
I think the secret to it comes in their assist ratio as well, which is 12th in the country. They
Yes.
pass into easy looks. And when you got guys who can shoot like they do, it spaces the floor like crazy, and that allows the cuts. And you kind of have to always be worried about a double team on whoever's in the post. And you put all that together, and it's just you create space. Like it's not, and it's as much on Danny Hurley, the strategist, as it is on Danny Hurley, the talent evaluator and recruiter here, because
Right.
it makes your job a lot easier as a coach when you've got 5 guys out there, no matter what 5 you put, who are going to draw all kinds of defense.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing is you can't double team one particular guy in this UConn team, because that means that's going to leave somebody else who can play at a high level basketball wide open, and you can't afford those easy baskets. So you're going to have to deal with the one-on-ones with Sanogo in the post, because he might kick it out to Jackson for a
Mhm.
corner three or something like that, and you just can't give up a nice open look like that. So it's going to be tough for defenses going forward. Watching this 10-0 UConn team, I bet everybody's kind of scratching their heads like, how can we stop them right now, or at least even slow them down and force them to create some turnovers? I believe they had 15 turnovers tonight, but yet they still got the win.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing, is it's like in some ways it still feels like we haven't gotten this team's best game.
No, I really don't think so. No matter how many points they win by. I believe the margin of victory is like 23 points, for every win that UConn has this year,
Yeah.
averaging. But I think that there is no perfect game for this UConn team. They still have their mistakes. Everybody has their mistakes,
Yeah.
but it's just that they can kind of put those mistakes under the rug and are able to outshine by doing different types of doing different things. And that's what's just so amazing about UConn right now, is that they can do everything.
Yeah. You said it. It's really remarkable what this team is doing. Obviously, we got conference play coming up
Yes.
soon, so we are going to find out in a hurry. Now, I say conference play coming up soon. Technically, conference play for the whole Big East started tonight. We're going to talk about this first. A word from our sponsor here. Let me read the ad. We've teamed up with SeatGeek this season to get you the best deals for tickets to your favorite teams. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, and they're here to give you some great deals. Get in on the fun and head over to SeatGeek, download their app, and use code NCAA Hoops Digest for $20 off your first purchase. Use that and go see a UConn game this year. Go do
Oh
it.
yes, and they had their first or they have their last non-conference home game this Saturday.
Yeah, go ahead and use that and get over there. You won't have to use that to go to a Georgetown game. Those are free, apparently. Not a great showing there. But
No.
let's talk about St. John's and DePaul. This was the first game of the Big East. It's a very injured DePaul team coming in, and I ended up going to this game. I'm a New Yorker here, so I want to get over and see this action. I ended up having a travel nightmare trying to get there and get to Jamaica, Queens, which is just middle of nowhere, and that's out there in Queens. For anybody who knows New York, you'll know them. It's you have to get a bus. You have to take a subway to a bus to get to that campus. And by the time I got there into the arena, I got my pass and all that, just like 2 minutes into the game. And at that point, the game was almost over. St. John's opened this one with a 10-0, and basically for the rest of the game held it at 2 points. It was never closer than 2 possessions after. It never got down to 1 possession after the opening minutes. And it only got down to 2 possessions at a couple points in the first half. The second half was almost double digits the whole way. Does this make you rethink? Well, I don't remember what you thought about St. John's in the preseason, but does this make you rethink what we saw from them?
Yeah, I think so. This is a 9-1 St. John's team, and they're right behind UConn for one of the top teams in the Big East. And
Number
I
one in
think
the standings in the Big East at this exact moment.
yes, yeah, and I think exactly because they got the Big East win tonight. But
Yeah.
I think this team is very good, and they can compete against some really good teams. And then we saw them in conference play today for the first time, and they fully dominated, like you said, from beginning to end. And there wasn't a dull moment for St. John's. And that's what I think, for covering UConn, it's scary. Looking at it from the Huskies perspective, it's like, okay, we got to play St. John's twice this year. Probably going to be one of the tougher games on the schedule for UConn. But this is also another team that can really do it all from
Mhm.
start to finish. And you have everybody kind of just playing their role, doing their part. And you even have the guys off the bench contributing. And just like UConn, very complete team.
Yeah, and I think the most notable thing about St. John's is the way they're able to score in transition. They force the turnovers, they get out. We talked about turnover issues for UConn. I think whenever St. John's and UConn play, it's going to be a really interesting styles matchup
Yeah.
this year because if you want to play big men off the court, if you want to make life tough for them, play fast and get them winded. Don't let them get involved and don't like interrupt the entry passes that they're going to be getting. St. John's is going to be all over that, and they don't care if they give up easy baskets every once in a while. That's part of what happens with that style of defense.
Right.
So it's almost a not caring about some of the stuff UConn does well, which it's a double-edged sword. Some days it kills you, sometimes you pull off the upset with it. I think guard play from St. John's, I think, has improved this year. I think Andre Carbello is who people thought he could be as a sophomore, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an interesting group. They've only had one real test against Iowa State, and they did not pass it. They had a rough night. I can't really dismiss it, but also one rough night happens to basically every team except UConn at this point. So one rough night doesn't mean much. Look at this St. John's schedule. They play at Villanova in a few weeks. That's their first conference game. I think that is going to be a very telling game about where those two teams stand. Plus, the last time they played each other was when Villanova had that huge comeback in the Big East tournament last year, and that
Yes.
crazy, crazy game. So I think there's going to be a little bit of bad blood, and it should be
It'll
fun.
make it interesting. Yeah, I really like St. John's. I think Joel Soriano with a double-double, 17 points, 14 rebounds, another big man dominating in the Big East that we talked about it earlier in the show. That's what kind of the identity of Big East basketball is this year. It's those centers, those big forwards that are going to be able to dominate you from start to finish, and they're going to be a problem for everybody. And now they're going to have to play each other coming up in a few weeks, so it's just going to be even a bigger battle of the big men in the Big East.
Yeah. Let me tell you, if you're, I don't know, one of the guys that works behind the scenes in any of these arenas, anytime I see Joel Soriano coming to town, I'm getting a little bit scared, and I'm making sure we got a second and a third basket ready in case he tears the rim off one of these. Because he had a couple dunks tonight where he was just slamming it on guys. I don't want to give all the love to St. John's here because DePaul had a couple players I think that had a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Deshaun Nelson also responded to a couple of those Soriano dunks with dunks of his own that were very loud, and that was exciting. Javon Johnson had a nice mid-range game. It's a DePaul team that's down its top two centers. They're both injured. Angenda is going to be out for a while. Yorane couldn't play tonight. And Caleb Murphy, who's supposed to be part of a deep backcourt for them, still has not played. And I think he's getting closer, but he's not in there yet. And you need that depth. DePaul wants to play fast, and they have no depth and no size right now, and that's a really combination.
No, certainly. And that's, I think, it's going to show for a team. How can you kind of push through and have that adversity when you are down some of your best players? And I think that's important, especially now coming into conference play. If you're still battling injuries, you're going to have guys step up. I mean, Zion Cruz with 22 minutes off the bench for DePaul and 14 points. And I think it's just like you have to have some of those guys step up for you, because if you're going to have to win games in conference now, and you're going to have to do that even without your best players, you're going to have everybody step up. It's kind of like the Patriots motto, do your job.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to go out there and literally do your job. And doesn't matter if you're out with your best players, because you can't really make those excuses now coming into this type of Big East conference season.
No, not when we're a month into this thing.
Mhm.
It's even if you're injured, you got to figure it out. And
Yes.
I think what was notable, even just being there and watching DePaul, was like communication was not there on defense. Guys just weren't on the same page. I think it was especially clear with like the guard room, the guards. They just were having issues figuring out who's supposed to be on who, and they also had a hard time staying in front of guys. Which the entire like the ethos of St. John's under Mike Anderson, their whole thing is we want to play fast to confuse you and
Hmm.
keep you on your toes, and then we're gonna try to drive past you and get to the basket, finish through contact, all that stuff. So it's like, all right, that's they do that well. So of course it's gonna be tougher for DePaul because this is what that team does. But I don't think they responded to it very well, and I think you saw issues in the second half. We'll see what happens when these two teams played again. Uh,
Hmm.
the David Jones Bowl, obviously here too. I don't know if you saw this, but apparently David Jones tried to go up and shake the hands of the DePaul players before the game and was rebuffed. It was not
Oh,
happening.
so a little bit of okay. And that's what I love about conference play is things are it means more.
Yeah,
And things get chippy and you let your emotions get the best of you. But I think that's what just makes it so great. And the Big East is just that's why everybody loves the Big East. And that's why I'm so happy they have all the success that they're having this year, because now it's like, okay, this is the old Big East. It's back.
physical. Yeah, I love it. I think I haven't researched this. I'm honestly not even sure how, but I feel reasonably confident in saying that David Jones is probably the first ever intra-conference Big East transfer to play against his former team. So that was a little bit of history that got made tonight
Yes.
because there were Akuka Cook, Corey Floyd Jr., and David Jones for the first intra-conference Big East transfers ever. Those
Right.
all happened this year. David Jones, the first one of the bunch to go against his old team. If there's a guy who transferred twice and then ended up somewhere, then that could have beaten this. But I don't.
I
Uh,
think you are right.
yeah,
Yeah, because yeah, Corey Floyd hasn't played
UConn
UConn yet, and that's happening in about a
early
month from
January.
now. Yep.
Yeah,
So
and we'll get the Akuka Cook versus UConn one coming up shortly here too at the start of
yes,
conference play.
yeah. So I think it just adds so much more meaning, especially for these guys who are going up against their former teams. Like, okay, I got to
Yeah,
prove now to them, and it's going to mean something more. And I think, especially for the opposing, the team that you left, it's like, okay, well, you left us. You're not our teammate. You're not a brother anymore. We're going to be attacking you hard. So it's that type of mentality now in the Big East. It's just making it so much more interesting this year. One of my favorite years watching it.
yeah, it's going to be an entertaining one for sure. One last stat because you mentioned Soriano in there. He is the leader in the NCAA in double doubles. He has 8 and 10 games this year.
Wow.
It's yeah, it's remarkable what he's doing. And part of that, and I think he's the perfect big for what Mike Anderson wants to do.
Mhm.
It's a demanding thing to play center in that because you have to be at the basket at both ends of the floor and you're basically just sprinting back and forth the whole time to be in that
Yes.
position, and then you have to play basketball after you do
Right.
all those sprints, and he's doing it well. I mean, he's in much better shape than he was last year. His conditioning's up so big. I mean, he's taken a huge leap this year, and he's fun to watch.
Yeah, and you love to see those improvements from guys in the off season, especially with St. John's. They need somebody like Soriano to be their guy this year. I
Mhm.
think last year was Julian Champagny. He was their guy, but now it's Soriano. So
Right.
I,
And
I
they got
think
help, David. Yeah.
I think having somebody like him who is able to be well conditioned, play basketball at a high level like he's been doing all season long, you have that complete player in him that you don't have to ask him to go do things. He'll be just out there doing it already. And that's a great player mentality to have.
Yeah. And I think you also got David Jones as that guy too for St.
Right.
John's, and the guards. I mean, obviously Polish and Curbelo. Adewusu is good. Montez Mathis got into double figures tonight. He's been good for them, and he looked like he was hurt at one point. I'm not sure what his status is. He kind of rolled his ankle or something, and
Mhm.
there was a sequence in this game that I was sitting there. Kevin Connolly, who writes for Fanside, covering this team, we're laughing about this. There's just a sequence with a whole bunch of loose balls and missed shots, and it was peak. Like if I told you Like what is like if I ask you, what does St. John's DePaul basketball look like? At Carnesecca Arena, it's going to be just fast paced and a mess, and balls going all over the floor. And that's when Montez Mathis got hurt, but it was killing me.
Yeah, I think that's everybody puts their bodies out there, especially in conference play. It's all right. Now it's different. I'm going to go dive for loose balls now.
Yeah,
I'm going to, scratch up my knees a little bit on the hardwood, take an elbow here and there. But that's what you love about these players, especially this time of year in conference plays. It's starting up. It's that they're just not afraid to put their heart out there on the floor and do what they have to do for their team to get the win.
that's what makes the Big East special, right
Yes.
there. That those are the two big stories tonight. I'll just go around the rest of the scores tonight in the conference. You had Seton Hall and Georgetown both kind of eking out wins. Georgetown's win came down to the end, and they ended up holding off Siena to get that win. It was back and forth for most of it. They had a run late in the game and held on from there. Brandon Murray had 20 points. Primo Spears had 18. Jay Heath had 16. Those are your leading scorers for Georgetown in that one. And Kudus Wahab had a double-double, 10 points, 12 boards. Although if you follow any of the Georgetown accounts, they'll tell you not great on the defensive end. Rough night for him there. Seton Hall played Division II Lincoln, Pennsylvania, and it was a 5-point game at the half. Seton Hall pulled away. They ended up winning this one 82-55. But that doesn't tell you how close this one was for long, long stretches of it. Lincoln led for almost 5 minutes, too.
I'll take that as a win for Lincoln.
Yeah, that is a moral victory. I'm not even
Yes.
sure how Ken Palm does it against these Division II teams either. But Casey and Defo was the leading scorer there. He had 17 points. Tyrese Samuel, Alamir Dawes each had 16. Jaquan Sanders had 11. He hit 3 3-pointers. And then Tay Davis got in double figures there with 10 as well. So those are the leading scorers from Seton Hall. I do believe Seton Hall does not have a 20-point performance from anybody this year still. So still looking for a guy in the offense. And then two more, I think, slightly more comfortable victories. Villanova beats Penn at home at 70-59. Cam Whitmore, 21 points. He looked like the guy tonight. He had 12 from Caleb Daniels and Eric Dixon, 10 from Brandon Slater. So another much-needed win there for Villanova against a tough Penn team. And the Providence Friars destroyed Manhattan by 99-59, 40-point victory. Bryce Hopkins, 22 points and 11 boards. Ed Croswell, 15 points. And then Alan Breed, Clifton Moore, and Devin Carter, all with 12 points in that one. So that's kind of going around the league. We can wrap up here, but before we do, is there anything on any of those teams that stands out to you or changes how you thought coming into the season?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm going to have to go with Georgetown, a team that has been struggling a lot this year, but they're able to kind of pull it off in the end. That's what I kind of like to see from a team who hasn't, been doing well, but yet, in close games like that, it shows true resilience from the Hoyas. And there's so much speculation about this team and what's next and everything like that. But I think for Georgetown to come off with a win against Siena, who has had some success against some Big East teams already this season, I think that for them, they should look at them like, okay, we're going to go now into our next few games, kind of just regroup, figure some things out, because Georgetown will probably struggle in conference play if they just don't figure it out. And they can't have another season like last year. You can't get any worse.
No. And the way things are right now, it's Georgetown's looking like it's headed that way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough to play a close game against Siena, but like you said, like you grind it out, you tough it out. That's big. Did you see the fans at that game?
No, I did not. What were they?
This was the free game, and there was nobody there.
Oh, I mean, it is finals week for college students, but I mean, it was
free for DC residents.
Oh, I mean,
anybody could show up.
Yeah, I have no excuse there for DC residents. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, long day at work, I get to go to a free college basketball game. Yeah, sign me up. I'll be there. But yikes.
If you went back about 20, 30 years here and you have 40 years and said, this is where Georgetown's going to be, I think it would be a lot of shock. So
yes, I don't think people would believe you.
No. That's what the Georgetown program is. We'll see I don't even know where to go with that.
Yeah,
We've said there's so much to say about Georgetown, and yet it feels like it's all already been said.
I know.
Yeah.
If we have like another few hours, I think we could be able to talk about it.
Yeah, we might have to do a Georgetown roundtable one of these episodes, and
Yes.
we're gonna settle the issue and then maybe not talk about it for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I know. Just leave it all out there.
We
Say what
won't
we
talk
need
about
to do.
Georgetown until they win a Big East game. After that point,
Yes, let's hope that happens for Patrick Ewing's sake and Georgetown's sake.
yeah. All right. So this is gonna do it for us on this one. Thanks for coming on, George.
Yes,
We're
thank
gonna
you.
have something for you on Sunday. There's a lot of Big East games on Saturday. A lot of teams in action. It's finals week. So basically, everybody's just playing on Saturday. Lots of good games. Georgetown plays Syracuse. Get the crosstown shootout with Xavier and Cincinnati. I know there's a couple other games in there that I'm forgetting. It's good basketball. So
Yes.
we're gonna have some good stuff. We'll react to that on Sunday. Prep you guys for conference play and get into some real games coming up soon. All right. Thanks everybody for watching and or listening. Follow us on Twitter at Road to the Garden. Subscribe on YouTube if that's where you're watching this. If you're listening to it and you want to see our faces, definitely go and jump over there, and we will see you on Sunday. Thanks for listening.